But speaking of the Mets, Pete Alonso catching the attention of the baseball world, of course, and maybe fans as well with his comments on the sticky situation in pitchers. Why don't you take a listen and we'll get your reaction after this.
The biggest concern is that Major League Baseball manipulates the baseballs year in and year out, depending on the free agency class or guys being in an advanced part of their arbitration. So I do think that's a big issue. In 2019, there's a huge class of free agent pitchers. And then that's quote unquote the juice balls. And then 2020 was a strange year with the COVID season. But now that we're back to playing a regular season with a ton of shortstops or position players that are going to be paid a lot of money, like high caliber players. It's not a coincidence. And I think that it definitely is something that they do.
Will, when you hear those comments about manipulation of the baseball there and pitchers as well using certain substance, does he have a point here that, you know what, we might need to address this?
He has a point, but, I heard rumblings of this at the very end of my career, which is in 2018. Once I've been out of the game the past couple of years, I've heard more and more about this. I don't feel like there's enough evidence for me to pick one side or the other. I don't think there's enough evidence to say this is exactly what MLB is doing. But if you do look at the list of the free agents, his point makes sense. All of a sudden in 2018, they juice balls. And then, he's like he said, he had that big class of pitchers. Well, those ERAs are obviously through the roof, and their home runs given up, everything is bigger. So you don't have to pay them as much. It makes sense. But chew on this for a second, Brandon. In 2018, Major League Baseball bought the rights to Rawlings, the company. It's kind of got swept under the rug, and it's never really been anything that's come to surface that we've talked about. They bought Rawlings for $395 million in 2018. Now, they have the rights and the capability of accessing the manufacture of the baseballs that they use every day. That's something to think about. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist here, but I do think that there's an issue there. And another thing is they change the ball every year. What other sport does that? Hockey? No. Tennis? No. Basketball? Football? Maybe in New England. That's just a joke for my Red Sox fans. It's a little too soon always, I get it. But what are we doing here? Why is the baseball changing every year to fit the needs and wants of the ownership groups? By the way, the commissioner works for the owners. Don't forget about that. This is an issue with the sticky substance. That's weird that it came up right now in a season in which you altered the baseball more than you ever have in the past. You can de-juice it by 5%, but you can't admit to juicing it? That makes no sense to me. Something's fishy here. Something's off. It's hoping something comes out before the CBA, because this could get really, really messy.
You mentioned the free agency class in 2019. What about this one coming up? You got some big hitters coming up in the free agency class this upcoming year. Do they care about this with the juicing and also the sticky situation, whether it be pine tar or whatever, maple syrup, as you mentioned before? Is it a big issue for them?
I mean, of course, if you're a free agent class coming in like this, like it was Lindor, obviously before he signed. They knew Tatis was going to get extended. They knew there was going to be a lot of money being thrown around, upping the market. And now they choose to just publicly make it known that they are deadening the baseballs. Those position players cannot be happy about that. That hurts their numbers. Maybe that ball that gets caught on the track was 3 rows deep. There's that 5%. It makes a difference, and you're taking money away from guys now. On a bigger scheme, these guys are still making a lot of money. But still, in the business, in the market, they're altering that because the owners are saying they lost a lot of money in ticket sales last year, this and that. They're always crying poor. There's a lot of issues here. I'm not full conspiracy theorist, but there's a lot of layers to this, and there's a lot of issues with the league trying to pin players against each other right before a CBA.
Interesting to see there. One of those pitchers under the gun a few days ago, Garrett Cole, last night kind of responded. John Donaldson kind of calling him out there with 2 strikeouts against him. Was this a bit of a revenge after Donaldson kind of, put him on Front Street there?
Yeah, it was. I mean, but I really thought Garrett Cole was going to go 10-plus strikeouts. He had 9. His stuff looked exactly the same. His only spin rate that was down, and it was just a little bit, under 100 RPMs, was his fastball. his breaking ball, his changeup, all that was the same and been consistent with the rest of the year. His fastball spin rate was down. That is his best pitch. Is it because he uses substance? Yeah, it is. It is because he uses substance. But pitchers have been using a substance for forever. And since the beginning of the game, guys have been trying to find an advantage to get grip on a baseball. The issue here, it's just being brought to the surface and made a headline now because, in my opinion, MLB is trying to cover up the fact that they manipulate the baseball year in and year out. But to get back to Garrett Cole, he was back to himself. And he had, every time he struck out Garrett Cole, he had a split second where he just stared at him. And Josh Donaldson didn't even look up. He knew what he said. I don't think Josh Donaldson's wrong. It's tough to pinpoint one guy and call out one guy. But when that guy's making that amount of money, just like Trevor Bauer, they're going to be at the forefront of this entire investigation.
Will MB turned to Will MZ for us this morning on HQ, my friend. Appreciate your time as always. Take care. Don't forget, fantasy baseball today. You can catch the fellas always diving in. Frank Stample, Scott White, recapping Wednesday's action. Also some other questions. Garrett Cole made a start. How was his spin rate, though? Sonny Gray and Ian Kennedy both went to the IL. Prospects updates as well. Buy or sell. Down low to give the guys a follow.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.